If you're a health or life coach and you're wondering how you're going to manage over the summer holidays when you have less time to work, less time to keep your business going, then today's episode of the show is for you. I'm going to share how you can manage to keep your business running, keep everything ticking over while you are watching your kids and going on holiday and all that fun stuff. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help heart-centered and highly sensitive health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, we're talking all about how do we manage to run our coaching businesses when we go through a period of having a lot less time available, like the summer holidays. So for anyone who is perhaps elsewhere in the world, as this episode goes out, it is the start of the 6 weeks holidays in the UK. This kind of 6-week period of the summer holidays when the schools are all shut, and if you're a parent like I am, things change. Things get a little bit trickier to work in. And this is a period of time that I have tried to refine and get better at doing for quite a few years. There's still things that I struggle with. There's still lessons I need to fully actually do, but I'm going to talk about what has worked, the things that I still struggle with, some ideas for you to take away if you are in this position as well, no matter what stage of business you are at. So before we actually share some tips, just to give you a bit of a background as to my working situation. So I have 2 children, 2 school-aged children, one of whom is 11 and the other one is 6. I am a single mum, so me and my partner are separated, so I have a co-parent. He does every other weekend, and over the summer holidays also does one night a week. And during the summer holidays we are looking at the arrangement where he's going to have the children one day during the week as well. I also very luckily have amazing parents, absolutely fantastic parents, the grandparents of the children, who will be hopefully watching the kids one day a week as well. So that kind of gives me my weekends when I don't have the children and 2 days a week. And that is going down from having 5 days a week during the school holidays. So it's quite a significant reduction of time. And over the last few years, I've worked really hard to try and figure out how to navigate this period of time. And again, it changes depending on how old your children are. So as I says, mine are 11 and 6. When my daughter was younger, it was a bigger juggle. However, she also had the option of going to nursery because nursery was available and it was open that she could go to. So it's just navigating those shifts and changes as the children's age changes as well. So that is where I am right now. I also want to obviously spend time with my children and do fun things with them. And that's part of what I look at for the 6 weeks holidays. And obviously still want to be present in my business. So I do take some time off. And I do communicate that with my clients. And again, we'll get into all of the ins and outs of this soon. But I am generally still around over this period of time. And again, we'll talk about why that can work, how it can work, and the amount of time that we've got in a second. The thing to remember with this discussion is you are allowed to work less. You're absolutely allowed to work less. However, you do have to have realistic expectations in terms of the progress that you might make. I am obviously talking about the 6 weeks holidays here, but for some people, depending on your circumstances, your working less might be a more extended period of time for whatever reason. So I think you've got to just be realistic and really honest with yourself about what this is going to look like and what's actually realistic to expect from yourself in that period of time as well. So let's just start off by looking at what I used to do over the 6 weeks holidays. And like I say, it changes every year, but when I would get really stressed, the main challenge that I had, or the main thing that I didn't do well, was I completely underestimated the amount of life stuff that went on in the 6 weeks holidays. And this is not just the extra childcare and things like that and the having day trips with the kids or whatever. It was actually completely forgetting that towards the end of August I've got my son's birthday, and then it's all of the go back to school stuff. So it's all the getting the uniform, all of that kind of stuff, and the school shoes, God almighty, getting the school shoes sorted out becomes like a whole thing towards the end of the summer holidays, and a big expense as well. And let's just face it, there is a cost that comes with the 6 weeks holidays if you're a parent. And I am gonna speak quite specifically about being a parent. I think that's my experience, and it obviously colours what I'm talking about here. So having that realisation, and I think I just underestimated that. So I would often get to the 2nd week of August, not long after my birthday, and I would just be like, fuck my life. This is horrific. I am completely overwhelmed and have no idea how to handle all of these things without feeling like I'm going crazy. So that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned, was to look back at previous summers and take a measurement and be like, remember that this is what happens. Remember this is what happens. So that's the first thing. We're going to come back to that in a second. The next thing was that I would try and just market and be as visible as normal over the summer holidays. And what I realised was, and I talked about this a couple of episodes ago when we talked about the quiet periods in your business. For me, summer is a quiet period. Yes, I still get clients in the summer. Yes, I still work with clients in the summer. Yes, I still make sales in the summer. But generally speaking, it is a bit quieter. And actually, that's not a bad thing, because it needs to be quieter for me to live the life that I want to live in the summer. And that's okay. So part of it was realising that it just get to be a bit quiet. And also, what that did was it took the pressure off me feeling like I had to be on my A game when it comes to content creation, because actually not that many people are taking that much notice over the summer, to be honest. So I used to have a 2-week break in the Wholehearted Business Show. I used to have that over winter solstice, which is obviously Christmas, and then I used to have that around the summer solstice in June. And that was all neat and tidy in my head because of the 2 solstices, and that was all lovely. And then I was like, why am I taking this break in June when actually I really need this break in August? And I don't want to take, because some people would say you could just take the whole of the summer off from the show. And I would be perfectly able to do that. But I feel like it would lose its momentum. And I think the rhythm that I've built up on certain platforms like YouTube, for example, there would be a cost to losing that rhythm. So I haven't decided to do that. I do take 2 weeks off. So I will, I think I've got 1 more episode of the show due out before the 2-week summer break, and then I'll be back. And that's okay. So now I take the break at the time at which I actually need to take the break. Another thing that I used to do in the summer was I used to try and multitask a lot with the children. Now, again, this is more of a thing that I'm sharing for anyone who's got younger children. So what I found was there's like an age bracket, I think, of between about I would say about 18 months old and 5.5, 6 years old, when it is really difficult to work with your kids in the house. It is just really hard. I think once they get over 6, I found that they can entertain themselves a little bit more. And certainly my 11-year-olds can crack on. I think it's not as relevant as an issue now, but what I found really difficult was I need to try and do this work, but also I've got my child wanting me to play with them and do this thing, and that is just a recipe for disaster. You've got to be on or off. I think when they're that age, again, this is just my personal opinion, and everyone's children is different. Some kids can happily engage in independent play, and that's absolutely fine, but that was a thing that was challenging before. And coupled to that, what I would also say that I think is an interesting thing to sit with is that it's okay for your kids to be bored. So this is something that and this kind of just comes across the whole summer holidays thing. It is okay for your children to feel a little bit bored. You don't have to entertain them every single day of every single week. And actually, sometimes that's a really good thing. So there are times over the summer holidays when I will be on my laptop doing some work and the kids will be doing whatever, and they need to just crack on because I can't afford to be doing stuff with them every bloody day of the holidays. And sometimes that's just how it needs to go. And I don't think it's a bad thing them seeing me working on my business, seeing their mother working on something that really lights her up and that makes money and that keeps the roof over our heads. So that's another kind of lesson that I think I've learned, of a way that I used to do it, that I do it differently now. And then the next thing that I do that helps with the summer holidays is I plan. And again, I've talked about planning, what a massive fan I am of planning. I use my mini seasons approach, which I will link to the episode of the show where I talk about mini seasons. I find mini seasons to be a really great way to plan in smaller chunks of time and to kind of take a whole life and business approach to planning. So I have a 6-week plan for the summer holidays, and I've sat down and, funny enough, I've just looked at that yesterday. And it's really helpful to kind of look through, and this is not just thinking how am I going to manage my time with regards to the business, but it's also things like, what do I want this period of time to look like in my life? What do I want my summer to look like? When I'm looking at my camera roll on my phone at the end of the summer, what do I want to be seeing? What do I want this experience to look like? And that is such a lovely way to approach it. I love that. So I like to think of it from that point of view as what do I want this period of time in my life to look like? That's the starting point. And then I look obviously at the business. So I'm looking at what actually needs to be done. What do I actually need to focus on? What balls can I not drop? And what that essentially looks like for me is my clients is the most important thing. It's how am I going to serve my clients? How am I going to communicate with my clients? How do I share with them that it is the 6 weeks holidays, and yes, that will change my rhythm in terms of response times, in terms of various different things, but I'm still very present for them. So how do I communicate and share that information with clients and still show up for them? That's the priority number 1. Priority number 2 is content, is still sharing the show, because that is what keeps people interested in me, and also, I'll come on this in a second, but keeps people warmed up for what happens in September, which is another big thing that we need to think about. So that is the next thing, is like, what does my marketing need to look like over this period of time to not completely drop the ball? So that's the other thing. And really, over the summer, those are the 2 main things that I'm thinking about. I'm not actively selling anything, although there is a project that I'm working on over the summer, which I'll talk about in a second. But those are the key things. And basically, if in your business, you could be looking at what are the things that I can't drop, and what are the things that if I do drop will have consequences later. And that for me is my client delivery and my marketing. If you're in a position where you need to bring income in over the summer, that might be slightly different, and you might need to actively sell something in the summer, and that's okay as well. So you've got those options to think about. For me this summer, as I said, clients, my content marketing, my foundational content marketing strategy, the show, which I will still be creating episodes of. But also, one of the things that I have learned from previous summers is that I always launch Wholehearted Business in September, and really the lead up to that needs to happen way sooner. So I do have a specific project that is designed to help bring some new people into my world and prep them and nurture them before we open for the launch in September. That is a ball that I have dropped in the past, is I've got to the end of August and thought, I've got 3 weeks until I open cart on Wholehearted Business. And I've done absolutely fuck all to prepare people for that, or to do any pre-launch. So that is something that I am doing differently this summer, is by having a very specific project that looks at that. So that's one of the things that I do. And then again, part of the planning is like, what regular days do I have available to see clients and to work? And as I described at the start, that is hopefully looking like a Tuesday and a Thursday, which is like less than half of the amount of time that I usually have. But what I have found in the summer is that magically, I don't know how this happens, it's like magic, I get absolutely loads done. And I don't know whether or not it's just the pressure of having so little time compared to normal, but I will get so much done. I am just so much more focused. I faff a lot less. I'm sure there's some productivity phrase, isn't there, about what this is, a proper name for it, but I will get so much done in that time, really will. So that's always nice to remember, is that I can actually be like incredibly focused and get loads and loads of stuff done. I should add as well, a part of the content marketing and stuff is my email list, and I will email my list at least once a week, and probably increase the frequency of that towards the end of August as I start to warm people up towards the Wholehearted Business launch. So those are the things that I've got going on, and just having that really clear is so helpful. The other thing that I plan for is the expenses that come with the summer. So one of the things that I did start doing at the start of the year was I use Monzo for my bank account. It has a fantastic app, and you can set up pots. So I've had a pot that I've been paying money into each month for the year so far. That is my summer holidays pot, and that's going to go on a little glamping holiday for me and the kids, and the associated expenses that come with the summer holidays and the back to school stuff as well. So that really helps me manage that a little bit better and removes like a little bit of the stress and the kind of having to think about that stuff. So that's really useful as well. And just having that plan in place and really thinking like, here's some great fun days out we can do that are not going to cost me £200. Here's some really fun things that I want to do as well. And putting all that together into a mini season plan is so useful. It really does make it run a lot more smoothly, and just having that expectation of what it is that I need to work on and that clear definition is super, super useful. Another thing that I'm doing this summer that I have spoken about on the show before is I am making the most use that I can of AI as a supporting thing in my business. I've spoken a lot about how I use AI in my business. It is not there to replace me. It's not there to replace my magic, all of that kind of stuff. It is there to support tasks to get done and to optimize and make things more efficient. And I'm really using that as much as I can, and really learning as much as I can about how to use that, because if you are someone in my position with not a lot of time, AI is your friend. And I know we've all got all the feels about AI. I have too, still have, but for that purpose, it is really useful. So I am also spending some time optimizing how I use AI to better support me in these periods. And then finally, just to summarize, I think whenever you take, and I don't see this as taking a step back, I think it's just a shift. You're shifting gears a little bit in your business. It can come with some mindset stuff. And again, depending on whether or not you are earlier on in your coaching business or later on, it can feel weird. And what I felt in the past is that I felt like when I've had to take a step back, like I do lose a certain amount of momentum that's quite difficult to get back into, which is why I've never been a fan of completely stopping working over the 6 weeks holidays. That just doesn't feel right to me. And again, there's a bit of a mindset energetic piece there, but really thinking about like, what are the limiting beliefs? What are the things that you tell yourself about being able to take time off or work a reduced number of hours over the summer? What's the beliefs underneath that? What are you thinking that means that you can't do? It's so interesting to delve into that and really see what that means, because again, I think a lot of us are here, and certainly it's one of the reasons that I wanted to start a coaching business, is so that you can live this life of freedom, so that you can live this life of not having to be like constantly doing your 9 to 5, not having to ask someone else permission to take time off. I think that's why a lot of us are here, as well as to help people. But I know that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, was so that I had the ability to do this over the 6 weeks holidays and to work flexibly around my children and do something that I love and help other people and do really rewarding, amazing work in the world. And I think it's really helpful to remember that when you are facing like that, oh, I should be working, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, or my business isn't going to grow if I'm not doing that. It's really helpful to look at that. And again, if you are a highly sensitive, heart-centered, neurodivergent person, like all this stuff can be quite loud. Like all of the shoulds at this time of year can be really loud. And sometimes we can be like, oh, we're missing out, we're missing opportunities, we're doing all of this. I think at the end of the day, you will do the best that you can do with what you've got, the tools that you've got, and understanding that and accepting it is really helpful. Again, at the end of the summer, review how it's gone. This is one of the things I did, maybe not last summer, but the summer before, is I did a voice note to myself. And I was like, these are the things I have to do better next time. I have to do these differently next time. It is going to be really helpful if you do those things. And that has been so useful to look back on. And I'll do that this summer. I'll review what has gone well and what hasn't and what I can do better next time. And do I actually want to start taking the 6 weeks off? Do I want to travel more with the kids in this time? And again, to be fair, we are going to do a glamping trip, but travel's not like a really high priority for me over the summer holidays because I have got more flexibility during the rest of the year. So it's finding what works for you. I'm just sharing this as a bit of ideas for you to think about things basically. So if this has been helpful, do check out my Notion planning templates. I'll be changing them up soon and the price will be significantly increasing actually because I've redone them for the Cozy Business Systems program that I'm running at the moment, which is amazing for all the AI stuff, which is only available inside Wholehearted Business. So that's another option as well. Get on the Wholehearted Business waitlist because that's where you'll get access to all of the stuff. All of the AI stuff that I'm doing at the moment is only going to be available on Wholehearted Business, so get on the waitlist. But if you just want some of the planning templates, do check out my Notion planning templates. I'll put the link in the bio and you will get the updated, upgraded version when that comes out at no extra cost because it is going to be more expensive when that does come out. But go and check it out. So there we go. I will be back next week. So I hope that has been helpful. I hope it's given you lots of ideas and things to think about from obviously drawn from my experiences. If you found this episode helpful, please let me know in the comments if you watch on YouTube. If you are listening on the podcast, pop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at wholeheartedlylaura. I'd love to know what your summer looks like and how you navigate this as well. And I will catch you next week, guys. Take care. Bye.